Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this session. We want to welcome all the schools that are joining in from the different parts of the country. You are most welcome. Thank you so much for joining this session. We are really very grateful for taking off your time to be with us. Today, we are going to look at our biology facilitation, and there is a lot that we shall be sharing in the course of the day, but as also we progress. But also we are really very grateful to the Ministry of Education. We want to thank the Association of the Biology Educators. Thank you so much for the support you are offering to the biology fraternity and to other children across the country. We want to thank the Renew, UICT, and then the Hope Schools. But before we start, may we ask any volunteer who wants to lead us in a word of prayer to raise up your hand and you lead us. Any school that wants to lead us in a word of prayer, kindly raise up your hand and then you lead us through. We want any school. Okay. Yes, Our Lady of Africa, Our Lady of Good Counsel, kindly unmute.
Okay, my name is Humphrey Agaba, and I'm going to lead in a word of prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Our Father, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Okay. Thank you so much, Our Lady of Good Counsel, for the word of prayer. Now, allow me to welcome our lead facilitator, Teacher Arthur. You are most welcome and kindly take over. Teacher Arthur, you are muted. Teacher Arthur, you are muted. Okay. Teacher Arthur? Okay. Let me ask him. Teacher Arthur, you are still muted.
Sorry.
Okay. You are clear.
Okay, good afternoon, dear students. You're most welcome to today's session, where we're going to be looking at how best can we interpret scenarios in biology and also get maximum scores. My name is Teacher Arthur Gonza, and I'm presenting this from St. Mary's College, Chisubi. So we send greetings from St. Mary's College, Chisubi. Today's presentation is not going to be teaching us per se, but it is going to be kind of a brief or a mini facilitation. Then after that, I would like now to hear your questions, all the questions that you have about biology. You'll ask anything that you feel you need to know. I'll be able to answer it. So the biggest part of the session will be based on that. And it's going to cut across through both papers, that is theory and practical. But I'm going to first give the first priority will be given to theory. Then later we shall go to the practicals. So what is expected of us? What is expected of us is, first of all, you don't have to fear the exams. The exams are doable because I believe teachers have taught you, and also through our continuous online engagements, at least I know you're not at level 0. You must be at some level, which is even more than level 1. So I will be giving some sample scenarios to guide you on the key things that we've never highlighted, to guide you on how best you can interpret the scenarios and answer them. So I'll share my screen. Okay, so I hope my screen is coming through.
Yes, it is on, Teacher Arthur.
Okay, fine. I'm trying to see if I can fit it on the same page so that okay. Okay, better here. Well, now, in our discussion, I remember we had some discussion some few weeks ago where I was taking you through the concept of interpreting scenarios. And one of the concepts that we discussed is that whenever you're making your interpretations, you have to always keep on relying on evidences that are given in the scenario. Because these scenarios is like they are carrying you from the classroom and taking you to the field. Then, now from the field, we are asking you questions that depending or basing on what you are seeing, what do you think maybe is the problem? Or maybe what are your observations? And what do you think can be done to have such challenges solved? And some of the items, like for instance, in section B, part 1. Section B, part 1, most of the items, when you look critically through them, they appear something like geography because they are about our natural resources. They're about conservation, they're about diversity, conservation, and sustainability of our natural resources. Now, if they are about sustainability or conservation of our natural resources, then we as biologists, how do we respond to these scenarios once given? Now, I'm going to use an example of this one. We see how easy it is to interpret these scenarios and answer them sticking to evidences given in the scenario. Here we have a scenario. We are saying that in villages of Zimbabwe, they have cleared the swamps for cattle farmlands and also for sand mining. The resident district commissioner organized the community sensitization campaign on sustainable use of natural resources in swamps. And they are saying, unfortunately, Raphael, a resident of the area, arrived late and he only had the closing remarks. And these were the closing remarks. So he had that I kindly request everybody to use our natural resources sustainably. So now, how can we interpret this scenario here and respond to it? Now, when you look at the demands of the task A is saying, explain to Raphael the environmental problems likely addressed by the RDC and how they can be solved. So they're asking you to explain the environmental problems likely addressed by the RDC and how they can be solved. Now, when you look at this task here, it is asking us two things in one. They're asking you to explain the environmental problems likely addressed, and at the same time, they're asking you to give how they can be solved. And when they talk of how they can be solved, definitely here, they're asking for solutions. Now, how do you simplify this task and answer it without missing a point. Now, the first approach, the first thing to ask yourself, if they are saying that, explain to Raphael the environmental problems. Then ask yourself a question, what are these environmental problems? That is the first question you should ask yourself. Because they are saying that, explain to Raphael the environmental problems addressed. Now, before you even think of explaining these problems here, you must first ask yourself, what are these environmental problems that they are talking about? And where are you going to pick them from? You're going to go back to the scenario, reread it, and see if you're going to pick there any problems that can could be occurring or that could be happening in such an area. So you go back and you ask yourself, what was going on in the scenario? In the scenario, I've told you that villagers or people have cleared swamps. So swamps have been cleared. For what? For cattle, farmlands, and at the same time, they are mining sand. Now, then you ask yourself now, if they are doing this, then what are the problems likely to be? What are the problems that these farmers here are likely to face? Now, the problems that farmers are likely to face, you take yourself in, someone is saying the voice. Okay, I'll try to increase. I don't have the headsets though. Now, we are saying that what are these environmental problems that are likely to be faced? Now, you start now thinking, you carry yourself, take yourself in such an area. Picture swamps being cleared. And if these swamps have been cleared, then ask yourself, what are the challenges that are likely to occur? You start thinking of things like, obviously, when swamps are cleared, you think of things like floods. So you'll think of things like floods, obviously. You'll think of things like habitat destruction. You think of things like habitat destruction and many others. Now, after coming up with your problems, after you have identified your problems, after you have identified your problems, maybe there are maybe 3 or 4 of them. Then now you explain those problems. And what is in explanation in this case here? If you have identified that, for instance, there is a problem of floods. So you have identified that, for instance, there is a problem of floods. And the task is saying, explain the environmental problems. So you have identified your problem of swamps, floods, sorry. So how can you explain such a problem? Now, when you are explaining an observation, for instance, obviously what comes into your mind is the cause. What causes it? But with this cause, since we are sticking on our scenario, we need the cause, but the cause should be evidenced by the scenario. So the cause should be evidenced by the scenario. In other words, if explaining the cause, this cause should be stemming from observations you have made in the scenario. There must be significant evidence in the scenario to support the cause that you are saying is resulting into floods in the area. I'll give you an example still. I'll give you an example. Now, when we talk of floods, for instance, here, if you have known that in such a place or in such a community, there is going to be a problem of flooding. Now, if there is a problem of flooding and you want to explain it, obviously, I have to first say, what would cause flooding in such an area here? And which evidence is there in this scenario to support my point of flooding? So if I say that there is flooding, maybe I can say that there is the RDC would have addressed the problems of flooding. Flooding as a result of clearing swamps for cattle farmlands. Then I can now say that the cattle would compact soil in the swamp, which hinders water absorption or which reduces water absorption. So I would take it like that. That now what have I said? I've said that there is flooding, and what has caused this flooding? Clearing swamps for cattle farmland. It is clearing swamps for cattle farmland. Now, how does clearing of these swamps for cattle farmland now lead to flooding? I would say that the cattle or the animals themselves, they compact because they are always stepping on the ground. So they compact the soil surface, hardening it, making it hard for it to absorb water when it rains. So if I talk of that point, then I will say that point is explained. Why? I will say it is explained because one, I've clearly brought up the problem that could have been addressed. And how does this problem come about as a result of which activity in the scenario that has been given to me? And I've said that the activity in the scenario is that when they clear it for farmlands, the cattle step on the ground surface or on the surface, compacting the soil, making it hard for water to be absorbed when it rains. Then when that one happens, then I will say that now I will have explained my point of flooding. So that is explaining a point. That is explaining a point. Then now, I hope now it is clear what it means to explain a point. And if the task has tasked you to explain, you must explain. And the explaining means going into the details with the evidences from the scenario about the point that you are mentioning about. Then someone is asking that now, how many maximum points are needed? Now, the points that are needed, first of all, don't give few points if you know that the points are there. That is the first guideline I have to give you. Don't give few points if you know that the points are still there. Follow all the trails in the scenario. Follow all the trails in the scenario. Now, those ones, maybe let me first address this one. Now, those ones sending chats inbox that they need the questions, that's why I'm broadcasting the questions. If you need them, please note them down if you feel you need the questions. So I don't know what you mean by saying that I send you the questions. So if you need the questions, I'm displaying them. So you're free to write, you're free to take screenshots. Now, then if it is not so clear, if you follow if it is not so clear in the scenario, how many maximum points you can explain, then explain as many points as you can. And ideally, for section B, maybe 4 points plus. But don't explain only 1 point, don't explain only 2 points, don't explain only 3 points. Actually, it should be 3 or more points. So that is what you have to consider when you're explaining your points. So we are saying not 1, not 2, not 3. Okay, maybe it can be 3 or more points, but the clues will always be in the scenario about the maximum number of points that you're likely to explain. And from other scenarios, we shall see from other scenarios what is there. How can you identify that I have now to explain this number of points? But for you, please, If you know that the points are there, please go on and explain as many points as you can, but don't again explain too many. As long as you have evidences in the scenario and your explanations are picking evidences from the scenario. Okay, so there is someone with a hand. Okay, I think the hand was later put down. Okay. Then someone is saying that they joined the late item 1. No, we did not start from item 1, please. We did not start from item 1. The document I'm using is having a number of items just to guide our discussion. Remember, one thing that I should guide you on is that in this new curriculum, don't focus so much on the answers that a teacher is giving you, because the answers that are being generated are specific to that particular scenario. Now, the answers that we discuss now, these answers are not applicable anywhere in any other scenarios that you're going to find. So rather focus on how I'm picking out points. Rather focus as how I'm picking out points from the scenario, using evidences also from the scenario to give my answers. Otherwise, you are going to be misguided, or you're going to be misled if you think that the answers are so crucial that you should write them down and have them crammed. The new curriculum does not work like that. So that's why I'm picking some scenarios that can help you, that can help me pick out a point or explain a point that perhaps can guide you to answer even other scenarios. Okay. Yes, Mohanj Andrew, you can unmute.
Yes, we are told that when we are talking about like section 8, explain to refer the environmental problems likely addressed by the RDC and how they can be solved. We first talk about the environment itself, and then later we talk about the things it is composed of, and then we bring in the problems later. Can we do that?
Okay, thank you. Now, leave alone what you were told. For you, go back and interpret the task. What is the task asking you to do? For instance, if you look at this task here, they're saying explain the environmental challenges. Now, go straight to the point. You go straight to the point. If the task is saying explain the environmental problems likely addressed by the RDC, then now pick out those problems. Pick out those problems that the RDC explained, that you think the RDC explained. Now, when you pick out those problems, then you start by explaining those problems that you have picked out. I gave you an example that I picked out a problem of flooding. Now, I showed you, or I have discussed with you, what it means to explain a point like flooding with evidences from the scenario. There is nothing like introduction. There is nothing like conclusion in these tasks here. Go straight to what the question asks you to do. If they are saying explain the challenges, pick out those challenges and have them explained. If they are saying what can be done to solve, it means they're interested in solutions. Give us those solutions of how the problems can be solved. So that is how you answer. There's nothing like interpretation, explain the challenge, that's my pick out the problem, what. No, just follow the task and the flow with it. Then there is also another question. Now, of course, then just saying how many points in section A? Still, maybe the formula that I can give to guide you is this. For any item, you follow the task and also stick to evidences in the scenario. If you do that, you'll get a clue of the maximum number of points that you have to explain. That is, if the task is saying explain. because you can have task friends in different ways. They can ask you to describe a process. So if they ask you to describe a process, then you don't again have to say how many points do I have to describe. If the task is saying explain, and you know that they want you to explain points, be it section A or section B, the minimum that you can go for are 3 points. The minimum are 3 points. But if there are still more points or more evidences in the scenario, you see that there are still more evidences in the scenario, then also go for those points. So don't limit yourself if you still see the points are still there. And whichever points you give, you must be having evidences in the scenario to support your points. Don't bring any point randomly out of the blue and you put it down that after all it is biology. Then let me also read more questions. Then someone is saying that, what if the task asked to mention or identify? Can I also explain? That is a very interesting question. What if the task is asking to mention or identify? Can I also explain? I will also say, follow the demands of the task. If they have asked you to identify, then it means that that task is designed like that. You just have to outline you just have to state your points. There is not, you don't have to explain. If the task is also saying mentioning, outlining, identifying, obviously, when you look at the demands of those words, mention, list, outline, identify, those ones, they do not require explaining. Therefore, don't explain. Because even if you explain, if they are scoring it, for them, they know that it is supposed to be not explained. So they will not give you marks for explaining, yet the task was not asking you to explain. So if they say mention, mention. If they say identify, identify. If they say outline, outline. Okay. Then, this one is saying that, what if I explain more concepts on only one problem? Can it be scored? Now, if you explain more concepts on only one problem, can it be scored? Now, if you explain one concept on more than one, on only one problem, then we shall treat it as 1 point because you are still on one problem. And the whole scenario cannot be rotating around only one problem. That is impossible. So make sure that every point you explain is a problem, a different problem. So if you do that, if you explain more concepts on only one problem, it will be scored as 1 point and not as many points. Then, what about the importances of the natural resources? Now, I don't know what you're meaning by importances of natural resources. The importance, still, I don't know whether the task is saying the importance of natural resources. Maybe, I don't know if you're asking about task B, and we have not yet gone to task B. I don't know, I'm not sure. But we shall come to task B as well, and we'll see how best we can answer it as well. Okay. Someone is saying that we want questions from section A. There is no difference between questions in section A and section B. There is no difference. The skills that I'm telling you apply both sections. The skills apply to both sections, please. The skill apply to both sections. So don't worry that now section A has a different approach, section B has another approach. The only difference is that section A, they will leave for you spaces to fill in. Then section B, they're not leaving you spaces to fill in, but the approach is the same. If they say explain, explain your points. If they say mention, it is okay, you can just outline your points. So if I don't pick any question from section A, don't mind that we have not covered section A. There is no difference. The skills that I'm mentioning are all apply everywhere. Then now, Stephen, if you want to ask a question, when you go to the interface of the WhatsApp, is where you'll see raising a hand. And so you click on that symbol of raising a hand, then I'll be able to pick you up and I unmute you. You'll be able to pass your picture. So to ask your question. Okay. Then Sebaika is saying, is it okay even when they say suggest? Now still, suggesting, it depends. It depends on the task. What we shouldn't get worried about when you read the task, this task would be very clear. The tasks are very clear. A good question, the tasks are very clear. If you read the task, if it is about explaining, you'll know, you'll see from the demands of the task itself that here I have to explain. Okay, so I think those are some of the questions in inbox. So I'm now going to give chance to those ones who have raised their hands. Okay. So Ian.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arthur. Well, I'm asking about, you've told us to always follow the demands of the question. What if I'm asked to identify the possible solutions? For example, of a person who is, let me say, albino. Are we allowed, are learners allowed to give one-word answers, or they make a proper statement of the answer?
Thank you. First of all, you said identify the possible solutions. So if that task would be valid if the solutions are somehow suggested somewhere and the learner has just to identify them from a given statement. That the learner has just to identify them. That is when it happens. That is how you have phrased your task, that identify the possible solutions. But I wouldn't set that task like that. I will just say, explain the possible solutions. Or you can say, how can we help a person maybe suffering from albinism? That is, if the task is if the scenario is about albinism. So I would phrase it like that, in a way that still the demands of it require you to explain your points. They require you to explain your points. And more so, also take note, when you are giving someone a solution, or even when you are advising someone, ideally, you cannot say that, for instance, if you're advising me to stop doing something, you cannot just come and say, please stop doing that. Yes, you have given me a solution that I should stop doing it. But again, I'll have to ask you, why do I have to stop doing it? So it means that for your response to be valid, or for your advice to me to be valid, give me what I have to do and explain to me why I have to do it, or why I have to stop doing, or why I have to take your advice. So that is what constitutes explaining a solution. Then, yes, Labu, Jonathan?
Yes, there's this like where I said under giving points, like for example, clearing of swamps for cattle farming. Then am I allowed to give all the problems under
clearing of swamps, or I only give one problem like flooding, not flooding and soil erosion. I can only explain one. Is it?
Okay. Now, when we say that like now in this scenario here, that there was a problem, and this, residents are doing something wrong. And what are residents doing wrong? What residents are doing wrong is simple. They have cleared the swamps for cattle farming and sand mining. Then I'm asking you, what are the potential or the possible problems that can arise as a result of this activity here? Now here, there are very many problems that can arise due to destruction of swamps. There are very many problems. So you give us all those problems. Me, I gave you only one problem, that was flooding. But there are also other problems like outbreak of diseases. How can diseases break out? But during sand mining here, we can the ditches left as a result of sand mining, the ditches left can create water pools. Then these water pools can serve as breeding sites for disease vectors like mosquitoes. That is also another point that can result as a result of destroying swamps for these activities that have been mentioned here. I can have also another problem that can arise. Maybe I can also say loss of biodiversity in the swamps, loss of biodiversity. That due to clearing of swamps, very many organisms would be displaced or would be affected, resulting into their reduction. I can also talk about loss of habitats for organisms that survive in swamps. And then this loss of habitat could result into these animals evading homes of humans, which could result into human-wildlife conflicts. So you come up with as many points as you can. Then you can also maybe talk about silting of water bodies, lakes or rivers. Why? Because I know that swamps serve as water catchment areas, or swamps filter water before reaching water bodies and lakes. Thereby, if swamps are cleared, water will flow directly into lakes and water bodies, resulting into silting. So that's how you approach those problems, each problem at a time, and you explain it. Then Mukura Memorial, can unmute. Mukura Memorial.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I would like to inquire from you, is it allowed us also to attach applications when you are presenting, like those side of effects, and we apply the application on that side? And also, are we allowed to cite only one problem, then we tackle it based on one problem that we have tackled?
I don't know what you mean by one problem. What do you mean by one problem?
Let me guide a bit. So he was looking at the scenario that when there is a cattle farmland and then the sand mine. So he was like, can he pick cattle farmland and handle this alone? Or I deal with only sand mining? Or I have to handle both?
Oh, okay, I've got it. Now here, you may not handle one at a time, or you may not handle both. for you, you look at these two activities here. Then you ask yourself, which problems are they likely to cause? Like for instance, I've given you a point of floods. Floods can be caused by cattle farming, but they can also be caused by sand mining. So that point can be as a result of both activities here, cattle farmlands and sand mining. Then I have given you the one of habitat destruction or loss of biodiversity. Loss of biodiversity, when the cattle, when they are making these cattle farmlands, they are destroying so many plant species. And also when they are mining sand, they are also destroying, because they have to first clear the area and start creating ditches for sand mining. It is also causing the same problem, loss of biodiversity. Now, me in this scenario, as per se, I may not have to separate that I'm now dealing with cattle farming, I'm now dealing with sand mining. I will just look at the overall problems. What are the overall problems that can arise as a result of these activities in a swamp? That is now the demand of this particular task item here. But other items can come unique. Other items will have the problems clearly stated, and they want you just to explain them. So there is a possibility. Yes, Sebaiga Baswali.
Excuse me, sir. Now, for the case, if they say that advise somebody, like be it maybe it is parts of a question or of a scenario, and they say that maybe Mr. Sebaiga and Madam Mary born, they gave birth to an albino, and then for them they are normal, and their child is albino. Now the father maybe says that that is not my child. Now, if I'm giving an advice, is it okay for me to clearly explain to them, and also I give them what to do? Or I beg you to write me on that, sir.
Well, now, when it comes to these new curriculum exams, it becomes very hard for us to look at maybe to look at the task when the item itself, when the scenario is not presented to you. And also the way you may now narrate to us how the task is phrased. You may find that if you look at that task, we are now able to actually pick out the demands of that task without getting confused. Now, of course, if you're saying that an albino, the father is denied, then they say advise. Now, what exactly does the task want you to do? Are you advising the couple? Are you advising what can be done in society to overcome that? What kind of advice? And the task would be very clear. The task would be very clear. If they are saying advise the couple, then now we need to look into the scenario itself. What problems have this couple encountered that we should now base on those problems and be able to advise this couple? So it becomes hard for us now to start thinking of tasks when we don't know the scenario.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Peter Brian, you can unmute.
If I don't highlight the causes of the
Sorry, it is a bit noisy in the background. We can't hear you. Let us hear from Our Lady. Our Lady, you can unmute.
Excuse me, sir. I'm asking about the solutions. Am I supposed to give the solution then and then, or I have to first wait for the part for solutions?
Okay, that is a very interesting question. Okay, now they have asked a very interesting question that are we supposed to give problem solution or now the best approach that would give you leverage is separate them. Now, for instance, if it were me, if I'm responding to this task A, I would first rate even like a subheading, environmental problems. Then after rating environmental problems, now I explain all my problems that I have come up with. Then after explaining all my problems, then I now say solutions. Then now I explain all my solutions. So separate them. Don't give problem solution. No, give problems, explain all of them. After exhausting them, then also now go and give us solutions. And don't forget that even when you're giving these solutions, you must explain all of them. Because for me to be able to accept a solution, I must know why should I have to accept your solution. So there must be an explanation as to why you think this solution is appropriate. Then Peter Alafi.
Yes, now hope you're getting.
Yes.
Okay, my question is now assuming they gave the points in the scenario that these are the problems the community is facing and they gave only 3 points. And then from the task, they are requiring you to explain how the problems are affecting the community. Should you only explain those points or you are allowed also to add, like you said, they have to be a maximum of 4. Then are you allowed to add to 4 above or you only explain those ones?
Thank you, Peter. Now you explain only those ones. If you follow the scenario and you see that now this scenario is giving you 3 problems, then it means you're going to explain only 3 points.
Okay.
And someone using Dell, let me give you a chance. Someone using Dell, you can unmute. Okay, he's gone. Batiwa Sophia. Batiwa Sofan.
Yes. Yes. Thank you very much. My question goes, how do you score students? Like you said before that the minimum points a student have to give is 3 or 4. And sometimes you find that the item is indicating 6 scores. How do the 3 or 4 points contribute to the 6 scores?
Okay, thank you. Now, your role as a student is to read tasks and respond to them. Your role as students is not to score. You're not going to do a paper and then score it. For your role is read the task, follow all the evidences in the scenario, and answer what is expected of you. How you'll be scored, that is now a pass for a teacher, not for a student. For you don't have to know how they're going to score you. So you just have to know how to answer. Atego Secondary School. Atego Secondary School, you can unmute. Yes, Atego, speak to us. We can't hear you. Now, yes, you're coming through. You can, What is your question?
My question is, what is the maximum percent for theory paper?
What do you want that information for? What do you want that information for?
The reason is because we are seeing sometimes maybe theory may be difficult and the practical may be difficult. So you can determine where to focus on.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If one paper is hard, then you have to struggle and pass it. But otherwise, knowing that it is out of 100 or what, that one doesn't. For you, focus, revise, and aim at maximum scores. Then I can have Onono Memorial. Onono Memorial.
Hi, sir. Thank you so much. Like for instance, are we allowed to list or outline the problems, then we explain it, or we just go straight away to explain it? And next, like for short-sightedness, are we allowed to draw the diagram of the correction, or we just explain it straight away without drawing the diagram of the correction of short-sightedness? Thank you.
Thank you. The first question you're saying that, are you supposed to first list your points and then explain them, or you have to go straight away? You go straight away. You go straight away, because listing would spend, you're wasting time on listing. So you can go straight away. But however, if you think that when you go straight away, you may first forget your points, you can just first list it just for as just your rough work. You first list all your points just as rough work. Then after listing all your points, then you now explain them. But you just know that when the person is scoring you, for them, they'll just look at what you have explained. And then if it is short-sightedness, you're saying that should you draw diagrams to show how it is corrected? You do what is convenient for you. You do what is convenient for you. But in most cases, it is better to explain using words. How can it be corrected? But if you feel like the diagrams would work, you can still use the diagrams. But it is better to explain. Then Chiabuza Muslim. Chiabuza.
Sir, if I have like 4 problems from the scenario, now if the question asks for suggest the solutions, when those problems that are like one solution I have, I only place that solution.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Interesting question. I've got it. Now, we are saying that suppose you have 3 problems in the scenario. Are you also going to give 3 solutions? Now, a solution, we can have one problem with many solutions. It is possible. Or we can have one solution which is solving many problems. There is also that possibility. So for you, whichever solution you think of, you write it down and you explain it. It doesn't matter whether it is whether it is solving the same problem or it is not solving the same problem, as long as that solution is different from other solutions that you have given. I'll give you an example. Now, if we look at such an item, this one here, the scenario that we have here. Now, this scenario, some of the solutions that we can give, we can say putting strict laws. When you put strict laws, then it is going to prevent people from going into swamps. So you say putting strict laws against people destroying swamps. Then another person can also come and say that also we can develop alternative sources of construction materials rather than using sand. Another person can come and say that no, since the swamp has already been cleared, we should restore the swamp by planting there water plants that you can now restore the swamp back to its original state. So you can read all those solutions are solving the same problem of clearing swamps. So it may not matter as long as the points are different, not the problems, but as long as the points are different. Then let me hear from Busoga High. Busoga High, you can unmute yourself. Busoga High. Okay, they are not responding. Then let us hear from Palisa High School. Palisa High School.
Yes, we want to thank you for the opportunity. Now, sir, for us, we would like to inquire from you, because you said the format of answering that you explain the points, then again you answer the solutions alone. What if I decided to put the points on paragraph form, the problem, the explanation, and the solution? Can't it work for us?
Why is it hard for you to first give problems and then solutions later? Why would it be hard for you to do?
So what if now I give a point and the explanation, then again I come and give the solution? What if it becomes possible that the challenge that I've explained in A above, the solution does not correspond with it?
Now that is the challenge. That is the challenge. That if you say that you're going to get problem and then you give a solution. Now, if I see that there is a mismatch, the problem we have explained is very correct. Then the solution you have given, the solution is very correct. But however, it is not solving the problem where you have put it. Then I will score you 0 for the solution. Yet, if you had separated them, if you had first given us the problems, finish, then you give us the solutions, maybe I would have said that, oh, this solution indeed, they can solve some other problems. So that's why it is better that you separate. But if you feel like for you, what you want to do is problem and solution, they will still not, it is still not bad. It is still okay. But however, you stand chances of confusing things.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Let us now first look at something, another phenomenon here. Now, when you look at task B, they are saying, explain why the village should conserve the natural resources in the swamps. So if they say that, now, why the village should conserve the natural resources in the swamps. Now, when you look at this task B takes you to things related to geography. Explain why the village should conserve resources in the swamps. Now, how do you respond or how do you answer such a task here? Now, first of all, you look at the scenario itself. Then you ask yourself, if all these problems are created, if all these, the problems that we have highlighted above, maybe the problem that you would have identified on task A, if all these problems are created, then why do you think it is necessary that we actually have to conserve resources in those areas there? So you'll start thinking of points like, of course, you ask yourself, what would happen if swamps are destroyed? We would have floods. That is why we had the point of floods as one of the problems explained. Then now, for task B can come and say that conserving resources in swamps prevents floods, or yes, prevents floods because swamps serve as water catchment areas. So I have explained why it is important to conserve things in swamps. Then I can also come and say that swamps serve as habitats for wild animals. Therefore, we shall not have animal-human conflicts if resources in swamps are conserved, like that. Then I can also come and say that swamps provide water for domestic use. That's why we have to conserve resources there. So those are kind of the points that we'd expect to give. Now, we don't expect points like someone who comes and says, swamps provide sand for constructing houses. That point, we shall not accept it in biology. And why shall we not accept it? For example, if you say that swamps provide sand for construction of houses, if you're saying that indeed it is true, swamps provide sand for construction of houses, so it means in one way or the other, you are encouraging people to go and mine sand so that they can construct their houses. And we know that sand mining is one of the causes of the problems in this community here. So that is why in biology would reject such a point, because you're encouraging people now to go and mine sand and construct houses. So for us, we don't look at swamps as sources of sand. No, because we know if we go to get that sand from there, we shall be destroying the swamps. Then secondly, don't give us things like swamps provide maybe materials for crafts. For us, I shall ask you, what is the importance of crafts in the ecosystem? If people go and get materials from swamps and they make crafts, how is that unimportant in the ecosystem? Because for us, we are looking at these natural resources as of benefit to the ecosystem. This is ecology. So if you say that we get raw materials, how is it important in the ecosystem? It is not important. If you say swamps provide sand for constructing houses, how is it important in the ecosystem? It is not important. So interested in points that are aiming at sustainable use of these resources without exploiting them for our personal benefits as humans. If, for instance, if it is a forest, maybe the scenario is about a forest, and then they're asking you, why is it important to conserve those forests? Now, don't tell us that forests provide trees for constructing houses. If you say forests provide trees or forests are source of timber, we shall reject that point. Why? Because it's like you're saying that now it is okay. People can go in forest and harvest timber. But when they go to harvest timber, they are destroying the forest that you are trying to conserve. So if it is maybe in the case of a forest, we'll be interested in those points that are only important all organisms in the ecosystem. Maybe tell us, swamps are habitats for wild animals. Swamps are source of food for animals. And maybe say swamps modify climates by bring about rain formation. Then you can say trees trap or absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, hence preventing pollution. Those are kind of the points that would be interested in biology. If they ask you the benefits or the importance of conserving natural resources. So that is how we expect you to interpret and respond to such items that are about our natural resources. Then, let me also now give you another interesting scenario here. There is this interesting scenario here. Let me expand the screen. This one here. Of course, please don't follow the numbering in my document that I'm using. The numbers don't mean anything. For us, let us look at the scenarios and then you pick out what I'm explaining to you. Now, we have such a scenario here. Let us also see how can we stick to evidences given in the scenario as we are responding to these items here. So they are saying that a 16-year-old Alex, fascinated by the human body, plays a football match in his rarely washed dirty shirt after several days of dehydration. During the game, he notices his salty sweat and is alarmed to find his urine deep brown afterward. After drinking plenty of water, he is surprised to see it clear a few hours later and wants to understand how this happened. He wants to understand how it happened. Now, how did it happen? Anyway, then now look at the task. Explain Alex's observations, explain the dangers Alex is likely to face, and advise him on what he needs to do to avoid the risks involved. Now, how do we interpret this scenario, respond to it, and get maximum scores? Now, when you read scenarios, the first thing to do is to relate with them. Relate with these scenarios here. By relating, you try to put yourself in that picture of that scenario, and then you start analyzing what could have happened or what is going on. Then you take note of the most important things given. Then now when you go to the task, understand the demands of the task. For instance here, task A is saying, explain Alex's observations. Explain Alex's observations. Now, ask yourself, if they are saying explain Alex's observations, then the question to ask yourself should be, what are these observations? That's what you should ask yourself. What are these observations? What are they? And where are you going to pick these observations from? You're going to pick these observations from the scenario itself. That's where you're going to pick them from. Now, therefore, go into the scenario, pick out these observations that they want you to explain. Because they're saying, explain Alex's observations. Then you're asking yourself a question. What are these observations here? What are they? And where are you going to pick these observations from? You're going to pick these observations from the scenario itself. Now, can we go into the scenario and we find out what are these observations that they want us to explain? What are they? So I'll start reading one statement, but at a time to see if it is observation, if it is an observation. They are saying Alex, fascinated by the human body, plays football match in his rarely washed dirty shirt. After several days of dehydration, then you ask yourself, in this first statement here, is there any observation that we have seen that we have to explain? There isn't any observation here. Because they're saying explain observations. Alex's observation. There's nothing. Then we now proceed, read further. Then they're saying during the game, he notices his salty sweat. So he notices his salty sweat. Now, this is an observation. Observation number one. So the first observation on Alex is salty sweat. That is observation number one. Then they're saying he's alarmed to find his urine deep brown afterward. Now, this is also another observation. The urine is deep brown. So this is also another observation. Deep browny urine. That is observation number two. So observation number two is a deep brown urine. Then we now continue reading. And I say, after drinking plenty of water, he is surprised to see it clear a few hours later. This is also another observation. Is another observation here. Clear a few hours later. So that is observation number three, that his urine cleared after drinking water. The urine cleared after drinking water. So if the urine cleared after drinking water, now that is a third observation. And then they're saying, and wants to understand how this happened. So that is not an observation. So it means from our scenario here, we have been able to identify three observations: salty sweat, deep brown urine, and clearing of the urine after drinking water. So therefore, it means on task A, I'm going to explain 3 points. So now for this scenario here now, this scenario, it was very interesting. This one is very direct. So you're even able to know how many maximum points you have to explain. Now, by interpreting this one here, it has been clear to us that we have to explain 3 points. In other words, we're going to explain 3 observations. And the first observation is salty sweat. Therefore, it means we have to understand, we have to explain. And remember, I told you that in explanation, it is basically about the causes. It's basically about the causes. It is about the causes. In other words, if I'm explaining the observation of salty sweat, that means I have to explain how does this salty sweat come about? But when I'm explaining how it comes about, I have to stick to evidences given in the scenario. So I'll look at Alex's ways. They are saying Alex plays football in a dirty shirt and has spent several days without drinking water. Several days of dehydration. So if it is 7 days of dehydration, then they are now asking you to explain how salty sweat comes about. Then secondly, explain how deep brown urine comes about. Thirdly, explain how the urine was able to clear after drinking water. Then you explain those observations. And Here it is about the content. Either have these things, you either learn them or you don't know because you don't learn them. And maybe I'll just give you, maybe I'll give 3 people a chance to help us explain any of the observation. You're going to pick an observation. You're going to pick an observation of your choice. And I hope you have noted down the observation that I was talking about. So I want someone to explain to me those observations. Then we get to understand what it means by explaining an observation in a scenario like this one here. So if you have a question, please first lower your hand. The session for asking questions will come later. If you have a question, but however, now I'm only receiving hands for those ones who want to explain any of the observations of their choice. And once an observation has been explained, then when another person comes, you pick up another observation. Late vocational, Rakai. Late vocational, you can unmute and respond. Late vocation, are you there? Late vocation, they are taking long to come. Pagirinya Secondary School at Jumani.
Am I clear?
Yes.
Okay, I will explain about the deep brown color of the urine. Yeah, so as we know, when you play football, your body loses a lot of water when you're sweating. So we shall talk basically about the kidney nephron. So when there is too much, or when there is low amount of water in the body, the nephron will absorb more water so that it can make the body hydrated. So in that way, the urine that will be produced will be concentrated and will contain less less water, and therefore the color will become brown because the kidney has to absorb more water to make the body hydrated. That's what I can say.
That is very interesting. So you have said that when you play football, you sweat a lot.
Yes.
And then it means that the nephron will reabsorb much of the water from the urine to rehydrate the body, hence resulting into deep browny urine. That is interesting. Yes, now that is what we mean by explaining a point. That's what we mean by explaining a point. Tell us, how does it come about? And also, I like the fact that he used an evidence in the scenario that when you play football, and indeed Alex was playing football, you lose a lot of sweat. In other words, you lose a lot of water in the body. And once you lack water in the body, then your nephrons will reabsorb much of the water in urine back to the body to rehydrate you. Hence, we get deep browny urine. Thank you so much. Then I can have another volunteer. Late vocation, are you there?
Yes, we are there, and student is here coming to present us now. Can you get us?
Very clear.
I want to explain about the observation where he saw the clear urine after taking the plate of water. So this was caused, in excretion, there are different wastes, and when you take a plate of water, you find that in your urine, you find releasing waste and including also the excess water. But the other brown urine was due to the fact that this person was dehydrated, didn't have much water. And thus the salts, the much salts, the accumulation of salts in the body released as waste, but the water helped to dissolve the body salts That's releasing clear urine after some time.
No, it is not coming out clearly. It is not coming out clearly. Maybe let us hear from another person. So another person can still come up and explain that observation of clear urine. Let me invite Mukura Memorial Secondary. Mukura Memorial Secondary, you can unmute and talk to us.
Thank you. I'm explaining the point of solid sweat. The solid sweat, we know that if playing football, you can sweat because those fats are burnt. So the fats now, those fats are burnt, they will turn into a liquid and they are released out through the sweat glands. Hence, solid sweat.
Not really. When you sweat, it doesn't mean that the fats are burnt. And now it is those fats that turn into liquid. That is not true. Coral Secondary Omoro, can unmute. Okay, if Coral they are not ready, Samson Memorial High School.
I want to explain the observation of clear urine. When the boy takes plenty of water, this is transported as impulses to the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland secretes ADH hormone, which is the antidiuretic hormone. This antidiuretic hormone is secreted in less quantity. This is because the water in the body is too much, and the ADH has a role of making the walls of the kidney permeable. But when it is secreted in less quantity, the walls of the kidney are not made permeable. So the water is allowed to pass through the kidney, and so the urine comes out clear.
That is interesting. Thank you so much. Yeah, it is not that the hypothalamus that says, so hypothalamus detects excess water in the blood. Then it will send signals to the pituitary gland, stopping it to ADH, stopping it from secreting ADH. So my sister, it is not that it stops the blood, makes the nephrons in the blood, makes the nephron tubules less permeable to water. Hence, all the water that is filtered into the glomerular is going to be eliminated as urine. So that's why the urine appears clear. So it is correct what she gave us, but only that she was now confusing some of the facts. So that is what happened. And that is the observation for the clear urine, that when you drink, that after drinking water, water becomes excess in blood. The hypothalamus detects that and sends information to the pituitary, instructing it to stop secreting ADH. Then the absence of ADH in blood makes the nephron tubules less permeable or impermeable to water. Then all the water that is filtered into the glomerulus is excreted out as urine. So that is explaining such an observation. That is what it means, explaining an observation. Then, okay, of course, now you also have now to explain the sweat, the cellular sweat, using evidence in the scenario. And we're not to go into those details now. Then there is also another interesting task here. Task B is saying, explain the dangers Alex is likely to face and advise him what he needs to do, avoid the risks involved. Now, when I look at this task here, when I say explain the dangers Alex is likely to face, then I ask myself, what are these dangers that Alex is likely to face? Then I'll now go in my scenario, reread every statement and pick out the dangers that Alex is likely to face. And what are they? When I say plays football match, I don't think that there is any danger in playing football, but they are saying he rarely washes his dirty shirt after several days. So there is something here. There is a risk here. If you put on a dirty shirt several days without washing, so if you always keep on putting on dirty shirts without washing them, there is a risk involved. There is a danger involved. And what is that danger? Is exposing yourself to skin diseases. Then he takes days without drinking water. There is also a danger there. So ask yourself, what happens when you take days without drinking water? Then now we shall start thinking of things like kidney diseases. Kidney diseases. Because that is one of the direct problem. Of course, under the topic of excretion, teachers must have taught you kidney diseases and the causes of these kidney diseases. Then, what else? What are the other dangers that Alex is likely to face? So they're saying if you continue reading and you see, during the game, he notices his salty sweat and is alarmed to find his urine deep browny afterwards. They're saying after drinking plenty of water, he's surprised to see his urine clear after a few hours later. So now there is no danger there involved. Now, when you look at so far what I have written, I have just written it two. I have identified the two dangers. So I will explain these two dangers here that I have identified, but with evidence from the scenario. If I say that Alex is likely to suffer from skin infections, then I must explain, why do I think Alex is going to suffer from skin infections? So I will say, Alex is most likely to suffer from skin infections because he rarely washes the dirty shirt he plays football in. To explain. Then I can also say, Alex is likely to suffer from kidney diseases because he takes several days without drinking water. Like that. Then they're saying, advise him on what he needs to do to avoid risk involved. Now, how can we now advise him, Alex, on what he needs to do? Then now you start giving points like washing regularly, his clothes, then drinking plenty of water before going for football, and many other solutions that you think that all those things can apply and be able to help Alex. Okay. Let me now get some few questions. Then we see how to proceed. Blessed Sacrament. Blessed Sacrament, are you there? You can unmute and ask yourself. Okay, Blessed Sacrament is noted there. Now, I'm only giving chance to those ones whose accounts are in clear names. Those are they're the ones I'm giving chance to ask. If you keep on raising your hand and I don't give you a chance, so it means that your account is in a name which is not clear. Let me hear from Springfield College. Springfield, you can unmute. Springfield, are you there? Springfield is not responding. Kaiser Trevor. Kaiser Trevor.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Excuse me, sir. What if in the scenario, like when we reach in the question, they tell us that make a write-up about what has happened in the scenario. How can we respond to that?
Those questions do not exist in biology.
Okay, sir.
Okay, then Kinkizi High School. Kinkizi High School, you can unmute yourself. Kinkiz, unmute. I unmuted yourself. I unmuted you wrongly. Unmute yourself again.
Sorry, please. This is Peter Alaf again.
Okay.
Now my question is, like the task is saying explain Alex's observation, and they have not given the observations. You are the one to identify them. Then after I explain, like if the explanation is wrong, will I be?
Excuse me, sir. My name is Amote Elizabeth, a student at Kinkiz High School. We do not clearly understand what caused a salty sweat, and now we need more explanation about that point.
Okay, fine. Okay, Alaf, you can proceed.
Okay, I said the task is saying explain Alex's observations, and then if you read the scenario, you are the one to come up with the observations. Then after the observations, you are the one also to explain. Now, if I come up with the correct observations and I explain them wrongly, will I also be marked for just identifying the observations?
Why do you want to explain them wrongly?
No, I don't mean like to explain it wrongly. Maybe somewhere I missed.
Now people want to explain wrongly.
No.
Now remember, the task is saying explain. The task is not asking you to identify problems. So the task is not asking you to identify observations. The task is clear. They're asking you to explain the observations, which you must explain. For you, if you identify, the task was not asking you to identify. The task is saying you to explain the observations. So for us, we shall go for the observations, for the explanations of the observations. Okay. Then I want someone now to help us explain the observation of salty sweat. Who can help us explain the observation of salty sweat? Levi, do you want to explain? Levi?
Yes,
You want to explain or you have a question?
I have a question. So I'm asking like, what if the scenario is giving more than 5 observations?
You explain all of them.
You explain all of them?
Yes.
It's okay, it's okay.
Now, okay. Gora High School. You can unmute. Gora High School.
This one is
Yes. The observation of the salt sweat of the scenario, I see the man Alex plays football, and during football, a lot of heat is generated from the body, which the body needs to get rid of. And one of the ways that the body produces is sweat to lower down the body temperature. So my thinking about that observation is during the cooling process, the body excretes some of the waste, which include the excess salts that are produced together with the water to lower down the body temperature.
That is interesting. That is a good explanation. Thank you so much. I hope the lady who asked about that has now got the answer. The observation of a salty sweat. You ask yourself, what is the cause of this salty sweat? Then you look into what Alex was doing. So when Alex plays football, there is the increased metabolism, which generates heat. And this heat is now going to be lost this heat is going to be lost in sweat. So as the one is sweating, also that water that comes out alongside the other waste like salt. So that is that observation, that when Alex plays football, body temperature, so there is increase in metabolism, resulting in the generation of heat. And this heat must be lost from the body and is lost as sweat. Then also you can again now tell us, then why is it salty? Of course, as water is as water is being expelled out of the body, it gets out with a lot of sweat, because Alex had taken days without drinking water. You look at this dehydration here. So it means people who don't drink water and they go and play football, their sweat will always be salty because of that reason. So I hope that observation has been explained. Okay. Now, any questions? Okay. Let me give Adelante Africa says a chance. Adelante Africa says you can unmute yourself. Adelante, are you there? Yes, Adelante, you can ask. I'm not hearing you. Adelante, I can't hear anything. Get close to the computer. Adelante, we can't hear. You can speak now. No, I think there is a problem with the microphone of the computer you're using, so I can't hear anything. Sorry. Then the Sage. Sage, can unmute. Someone using the account Sage. Sage D, are you there? Okay, they are not responding. Let me pick. Okay.
Sir. Hello, sir.
Yes, we can hear you.
Please asking for you to repeat the way the salty sweat is formed.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to comment about it. Then someone using the account parents. Someone using the account parents. What is your question?
Okay. I was asking, Bampuri. I was asking if you can relate the question of deep brown urine to glucose and diabetes such.
Okay, thank you. Now let me first start with that one there. Now, you cannot relate the deep brown urine to glucose and the diabetes. Why? Whichever response you give, you must at least be having some evidences in the scenario that point to that. From the information given to us, there is no indication that Alex is suffering from diabetes. And there is no indication that Alex maybe consumed a meal of glucose before going for the exercise or before going to play football. They have not given us any clue to that. If maybe they had said that Alex is sick, then we could now maybe suspect that maybe Alex is suffering from diabetes. So you cannot relate it to diabetes because we don't have any evidence in the scenario that points to diabetes. That's why whichever explanations we are getting here, we are giving them basing on what Alex is doing. So all the responses are tailored to what Alex, the experiences of Alex. Then they asked also that they don't understand the cause of salty sweat. Now, you ask yourself, first of all, when do we sweat? If it is very cold, you cannot sweat. We only sweat when it is hot. And why do we sweat when it is hot? It means it is a mechanism by which the body loses heat from the body and carries out some excretion. So when we urinate urine, the urine is getting out with water and some waste products and some excess waste products. For instance, the urine can also include excess salts. The urine can also include excess water, and the urine can also get out of the body with some heat as well. So it means that when you are urinating, you are getting rid of a number of waste products from the body. And the only way they can get out from your body is through that urine. Now, during playing football or when someone is metabolically active, when the person is metabolically active, there is a lot of heat that is generated in the body as a result of increased metabolism. That's why when you go to run, when you run, after running, when you touch your body will be very, very hot. Why? Because it means that when you were running, there was increased metabolism, and this increased metabolism resulted into increase in heat generated by the body. Therefore, this heat has to leave your body. But where is it going to leave from? Now, sweating will have to be triggered. So you'll have to sweat so that the sweat comes out with the heat, the excess heat. But since Alex had taken several days without drinking water, it equally means that Alex doesn't have enough water in the body. So that little water that is there will come out with sweat, but at the same time, it will be very concentrated with a lot of salts because there isn't enough water in the body. So that is why Alex would have got salty sweat. So how do you write it down? Just tell us that when Alex was playing ball, there was increased the metabolism, which increased the heat in the body. Then this heat is expelled out of the body so that this heat can only be expelled through the body, from the body through sweat. Coupled with the days of dehydration, the sweat comes out when it is very concentrated with a lot of salts. That is that observation of salty sweat. Okay. Then let me now let me also first check inbox. I had ignored the inbox. Let me see what is there. Okay. Then someone is saying, so in brief, a challenge should be identified first, its cause and its effect last. That is, now I don't know to which task you're asking, because if a task is not saying you need to give the cause and the effect, why do you do it? But if you're giving an explanation to an observation, then you don't have to give the effect. But if they want the effect, they'll ask you for the effect. Then there's a question here that how can I respond to a question of someone running and after he or she feels body pain, muscle cramps, and fatigue? I would like to know how to respond to the question about hormones as well. Now, there is no question about hormones. There's no question about someone is running and after she feels body pain. I'll take it back to you. What is in the scenario? What does the scenario say? The new curriculum responses are scenario specific. Responses are scenario specific. I cannot tell you that this is how you respond to a question about hormones when we don't have the scenario. What is the scenario asking? What is the scenario about? So we shouldn't think that in this new curriculum that we have a specific way of answering the questions. No, we just have a specific way of answering specific scenarios. So the BHS, I don't know which school is that. Please, we don't have specific ways of answering specific questions, We just have specific ways of answering specific scenarios. Then emphasis on how to attempt item 3, section A. Now I will still repeat. In this new curriculum, all items are the same. All items are the same. The demands are the same. The demands are the same. So what you have to do, maybe if you have a scenario, then maybe you can now share with us that scenario and we see how can we respond to that scenario. Specific. That's why you cannot cram responses here. Even the things that we have explained, how does salty sweat come about? How does deep brown urine come about? How does drinking plenty of water result into clearing of the urine after a few hours? How does it come out? The answers you have written, those answers are specific for this scenario here. Those answers will not work in any other scenario that you find. every scenario has its own evidences in it. And at the same time, it also has its own demands of the task. So ask specific questions about maybe the challenges, or maybe if you have a specific scenario, you can share, then we see how best can we interpret it and respond to it. But otherwise, I may not be able to guide you if you say, how do I answer a scenario phrase like so and so? Then there is also another question that, can't we relate the salty sweat to excess salts in the body? And now it is an interesting question. It's saying that, can't we relate the salty sweat to excess salts in the body? Yes. Now, the saltiness of the sweat itself is due to excess salts as a result of dehydration, because the only evidence that we have in our scenario that is even able to give us an idea that indeed this sweat has to be salty is the dehydration. So in your explanation, I have to again capture this point of dehydration. So the salty sweat is due to two things. The saltiness is dehydration, and the sweating itself is due to playing, which increases metabolism, raising body temperature or heat. Then this heat has to be removed out of the body through sweat. That is the approach. Then Isaac is saying, is it possible for us to give solutions with the challenges after finding out the challenges? Now, I don't know, I've not understood your question. Is it possible for us to give solutions with the challenges after finding out the challenges? Isaac, I will still tell you, just follow the task, please. Members, dear students, in this format of exams, follow the tasks. Don't deviate from the tasks. Follow the tasks. And whatever you write, stick to evidences given in the scenario. That is what you have to do. Okay. Okay, let me now respond to Hans. Then Martin Mukongoma. Martin Mukongoma, you can unmute and ask us.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, sir. Now I would like to know. I'd like to know more how I can explain Alex's observations. And what if I add more observations, like when he was playing football, he must experience like rapid breathing. Can't it be an observation?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to know whether I can explain those observations by saying that those are observation exclusions. I mean the removal of waste products in the body. Can't it work?
Okay. Okay, so I respond to those ones. Okay. The first question was that he needs to know how then should we explain these observations. We have explained some. Like for example, you have explained how the salty sweat comes about. Maybe how does now the deep urine, maybe there was challenges of network, but now how can I explain this observation of deep brown urine? Deep brown urine, you simply say that you can say that when Alex plays football, he loses a lot of water through sweat. Then resulting into less water in blood. Then when there is less water in blood, the nephrons reabsorb much of the water from the urine, resulting into deep browny urine. Then another person can say that due to dehydration, because here we can see that Alex spent several days without drinking water. Another person can say that due to dehydration, the hypothalamus detects presence of less water or little water in blood, sends information to the pituitary gland, which releases ADH hormone. Then the ADH hormone will increase, so that the ADH hormone will increase the permeability of the nephron tubules to water. Much of the water will be reabsorbed from the urine back into the blood, resulting into concentrated urine, or resulting into deep browny urine. I can explain like that. Then how does the water become clear? How does the urine become clear afterwards? We also mentioned about that. We said that when he drank plenty of water, there was excess water in the blood. The hypothalamus detected and stopped the pituitary from releasing ADH, causing the nephron tubules to become less permeable or impermeable to water. Therefore, the excess water is lost in urine, causing it to become clear. That's how you explain such observations, such an observation. Then the second question was that, is it possible for us now to add other observations? No, don't add any other observations. Stick to the scenario. You stick to the scenario. If they say explain Alex's observations, go to the scenario and look for those observations. You look for them, and you only stick to those ones that have been given. You don't again start coming up with other observations that are not talked about in the scenario. So you only stick to the scenario only. Then another question was that, can't we explain these observations in form of removal of waste products as explained? Yes, it can be removal of waste products. But remember, we have to use these evidences, information given to us here. It means that whichever observations we are seeing here, these ones here, the ones I have highlighted, the salty sweat, the deep brown urine, is due to the game, because they are saying during the game. So you ask yourself, how is the game responsible for this? How is the game responsible for these ones here? So it means when you're explaining the cause of salty sweat, it should be in relation to the game. How does the game cause salty sweat? If you're explaining deep brown urine, now it can be either how the game causes it, but also there is this statement here, plays, and he takes days without drinking water, several days of dehydration. So you explain them based on only evidences given in the scenario. Then Newcastle High School. Newcastle High School, you can unmute and ask. Newcastle High School.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, but I wanted to ask this question a long time ago for the past part, for the first part. I don't know whether I can ask it.
Okay, okay.
There on the explanation of the problems, Yes? Like when you are explaining, you give a point, then you explain. Is there a penalty of someone? Like, for example, they told us you give 2 biotic and 1 ambiotic. So I don't know whether we should follow it again or we can ignore.
Hold on. Who told you that you give 2 biotic and one abiotic? I did not tell you that.
Like in the recent seminars we went to, they are like you give 2 living things that are affected and 1 non-living that is affected.
There is no justification for that.
Okay. All right. Even happens on part 2 again. That
there is
they
no
mark
justification for that.
All right, so I've understood. Then again on part 2, that they consider, is it true that there is consideration of giving organs and then the process involved? Or you can just give the explanation without giving the what? The organs and the process that occur.
Well, what I can say is that for you, interpret the task and follow what the task is asking you to do. You don't have to enter with the pre-programmed information, because it does not work. You don't have to go with pre-programmed rules or maybe things. Just go, interpret the scenario and look at what does this task want me to do. Then you do exactly what the task is telling you to do. Now, then you don't have to say that, but they told us that we have to give the organs, then the function of the organs. What is the task asking you to do? If the task is saying, give the organs and the functions of the organs, then you do that. If the task is asking you otherwise, then you do otherwise. So you don't have to enter with the pre-programmed things. Just enter with a sober mind. When you're answering, maybe when you're going for your NEB exams, enter with a sober mind. Interpret the task and answer it as it is given to you.
Okay. I've understood.
Okay. Then let me have spring. No. Okay, our lady. Our lady, good counsel.
Me. Okay. Good afternoon. So I'm Noel from Wale the Good Council, and my question is still about the salty sweat. Teacher, what do you say about since this person, this Alex guy, taking water. So I don't think that the concentration or the level of salty sweat that a person who has been taking water and a person who has been taking water is the same. So teacher, my query is would I be penalized if I talk about the crystallizing of the salt, like that whitish layer on his face or his body?
Okay, thank you. Now, first of all, don't worry that will you be penalized. There is no penalizing here. You either have it correct or you have it wrong. If it is wrong, then it is not going to be accepted. If it is correct, then it will be accepted. So there is nothing like penalizing. Then secondly, if you say that crystallizing, if you say that crystallizing, the sweat crystallizes, because they're saying explained observation. Now, from the information given to you here, are you noticing, or maybe have they told you that maybe the salt crystallized? There is nothing here given that the salt crystallized. Therefore, you still don't go that lane. You don't go that lane. Maybe if they had said that maybe I'm just thinking outside the box. Maybe they say that Alex had maybe salt crystals on his face. Then now we can now go into that explanation. But here they're just saying salty sweat. Then the other question, which I hope I picked it right, you're saying from what I picked, it's like you're asking that does it mean if you drink water, the sweat will not be salty, vis-a-vis not drinking much water. Now, vis-a-vis not drinking water. Now, when we are sweating, the sweat is salty. The sweat is salty. But to a person who has not drunk enough water, the sweat will be much more salty than a person who drank water. So that is what happens. So that's why here, when explaining this observation here, I talked of the sweat. First of all, the sweat itself. Why does a person sweat? When I said that there is increased metabolism because he's playing, metabolism increases heat, then this heat has to be removed out of the body. And it is only gotten rid out of the body through sweating. And since the person had taken several days without dehydration, so expect the body not to have much salt. So expect the blood to be much more concentrated with a lot of salt. Therefore, the person now will now excrete sweat, which is very salty. Okay. Then, so our lady, I hope I have answered you. I hope. Then, let me pick those ones I have not given chance. Yes, Lubiri SS. Lubiri SS, you can unmute and ask.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask about section A.
Yes, it's fine. You can ask.
Yes, in section A, are there like specific topics that they go for all?
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
Is there like a specific topic that we are supposed to revise in like in section A?
Okay. That is their specific topic.
Yes.
Yes, I've got the question.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll respond to you. Let me also hear from another person. Victory SS, you can unmute and ask. Yes, Victory SS, please. Victory SS, we can't hear you.
Those who may have questions, you can be placing them in the chat. They'll be responded to. In case there are some other burning questions that you have, feel free to have them posted in the chat. They'll be responded to.
Okay. Now, thank you. Now, let me respond to the question from Rubiria says, they are saying that is there a specific topics they can read for section A? Now, are you interested in only passing section A? You are interested in passing the entire paper. So for you read all the topics, you prepare for the entire syllabus. So when you're revising, you prepare for the entire syllabus. The whole syllabus will be captured. So don't say that now for me, I want to only pass section A. Therefore, you need to know the topics in section A. Just prepare for the entire syllabus. The whole syllabus will be captured. So when you're reading, please prepare. And more so, from what you can see from these items here, these items are not topic specific. They are not topic based. An item integrates several topics. So you're not going to say that may want to read this topic only. You'll fail. You find another, for example, this topic here is integrating a number of topics, not only one topic. So please, when you're reading, read to understand all topics. Read to understand all topics. Don't say me, I need to read now reproduction. You'll not find an item which is only about reproduction. You'll find it integrating several other topics. So please don't spot. Spotting does not apply to this new curriculum. You have to read all areas in the syllabus. Then let me get a question from Springfield College. Springfield, you can unmute and ask.
Are they going to be scored according to the race?
According to what?
Are they going to be scored according to the race?
Hey, this is a teacher or a student?
A teacher.
Oh, thank you. Okay, now they are not going to be scored according to race. They will be scored according to how they're going to be scored according to the number of points that they give. They're scored according to the number of points that they give. Now, for instance, when you look at this one, if I say explain Alex's observations, and we have identified out 3 observations. So it means this task A, I'm going to require them to make 3 correct observations to make maximum scores. So they are not scored according to race. They are scored according to how many points they have explained correctly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Then the late vocational, Rakai. Late vocational, you can unmute. Late vocational, unmute.
Yes, am I clear?
Yes, very clear.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you. We have here a scenario that is saying that a senior to age 15-year-old girl claimed to have been raped by Peter. After 1 month, she started vomiting and later was discovered pregnant and also was HIV positive. However, Peter denied the pregnancy and abandoned her. She delivered a child who is HIV positive, mentally retarded, with a short neck and a flat face. The doctor claimed that the child's health condition is due to a genetic disorder. Now in the task, they are saying, explain how the child's genetic condition comes about. And part B is saying, what are the likely challenges that Benna faced before and after delivery? And part C saying, How can Joyce ensure the child lives a healthy life? So I would like you to enlighten us on how we can bring out clearly and what steps are we supposed to take to come with clear solutions that are appropriate for this kind of task.
Okay. Now I may not now give you the responses because the answers, they do not count. They may not even be of help. Now, when you look at task A of that item, when they are saying explain how the child's condition came about. So it means that when you look at that, they're kind of interested in how does that inheritance take place. So it means there, a candidate has to perform genetic process to show us how does this child inherit that disease from the parents. So task is about a genetic process. So it means that now a learner has to explain. First of all, how they arrive at the parents' phenotypes before you perform that process. How do you arrive at the parents' phenotypes? Then after explaining how you arrive at the parents' phenotypes, then you now give the cross now. You perform the cross. Then after crossing, then a learner is expected to give us now a conclusion. Now, I'm not going to go into now the details that this is how the cross should be done like that and that. But they have told that we cannot focus on only one scenario for the purposes of knowing what answers are there, yet answers are scenario specific. What is important is now the approach. How do I interpret and simplify these tasks to know that this is what I'm expected to write? Then secondly, when they say the likely challenges faced by the mother before and after, then it seems that it sounds like they want now a learner to think, look at what the mother went through before birth and after birth. What problems do pregnant mothers go through? What problems do HIV positive mothers go through? Then even after giving birth, what problems do mothers who have given birth go through? And what problems do HIV positive mothers go through? So those are the challenges that they're interested in a candidate to explain. For example, if you say that maybe there is a problem of stigma, it is clear people who are HIV positive, they suffer from stigma. So it means if you give a challenge like that one, then you must explain it. How is stigma a problem and what is this problem called the stigma? For example, just giving you an example. So that is what task B needs. Then when they say what to do, how to ensure, so it means that now they need now solutions. How can you advise that couple? What should they do basing on the problems that they are facing? And the problems are clear in the scenario. They have given problems, maybe the mother is HIV positive, maybe with other things, even the disease itself. So how do you advise such people? So there they just need solutions to help the couple, or maybe even help the children. So that would be the approach to that question there. Okay, have I responded to you?
Yeah, I guess I'm now right enlightened.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Then Cecilia Hairwe, we should be concluding in the next 10 minutes. Cecilia Hairwe. Cecilia Hairwe, are you there?
Sir, if the question like it is talking about eating beans and posho, and at last they say that a person was running and experienced like muscle pull, They ask you the process. You give the whole process from where digestion starts from until how energy is formed.
Okay. Yes, I've got the question. Now, if it comes like that, maybe the person ate, then maybe went to run, then he got muscle pull, and then they ask maybe how he got the energy. And now there, what maybe the scenario will be interested in, tell us which food did he eat, or which food did the person eat, and does this food give energy? If maybe they say the person ate a meal of posho and beans, if they say a person ate a meal of posho and beans, if they ate a meal of posho and beans, then of the posho and beans, which one now would provide the energy? Then you describe how maybe posho results into generation of energy. Maybe you can say the posho was digested to glucose, then the glucose transported to the muscles, then in the muscles it was respired during respiration, generate energy, then the energy was used by the person to run. So that would be the approach. But still, I can't be specific because the scenario, you've not narrated to us the whole scenario and which evidences is the scenario providing to guide our response. Okay, then the Koro secondary, Moro. Okay, Koro, still we can't hear you. Then let me give now the chance to the one using the account of, okay, let me give it to Adelante, Africa. Adelante, Africa. Adelante, Africa, are you there?
Teacher Aka?
Yes?
Yes, may I first request Mr. Ronald to say something before he drops off?
Okay, it's fine.
Okay. Mr. Ronald? I hope I didn't delete this chat.
Yes, Mr. Dungu, are you there?
I'm trying to get him. Mr. Ronald? Arthur, we can be continuing. Let me try to see what is happening.
Okay. Then we can have now there is a name which okay, NASA SS. Someone using the account NASA SS, you can unmute and ask your question. NASA SS. We can't hear. You're unmuted, but we are not able to hear anything. Okay, then let me give the chance now to some other person. Let me pick the ones who have not gotten any chance. Gibbs Patrick. Patrick, can unmute yourself. Okay, people are not responding now. I think we should now be able to, we should be concluding. Busoga High, you can unmute.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity given to us. Am I clear?
Yes, very clear.
The question says, Rick is a 28-year-old male who has been admitted to hospital due to general poor body health. He always feels tired. However, he eats enough carbohydrates as part of his diet, so he must lack other nutrients. The question says, explain how these life choices affected by Risk's normal body health. 2. Suggest that all lifestyle changes for risk and why, and reasons why. And then another one says, okay, sir, thank you. How can we answer that?
First of all, not all items you are able to access are actually up to the standards. Some items are not to standards. In other words, they are not valid items. And the item you have read to us is one of the items which are invalid, is not valid. The demands of that item are more of cramming, being able to reproduce what someone had crammed. So don't worry of that item. If it is becoming tough to you, it is not a well-moderated item, not a well-moderated item, because the tasks are not clear. And not all exams you saw in the mocks, all the various mock papers, not all of them are up to the standards, and they shouldn't bother you. Okay, so of course, we've not been able to talk about the practicals. But however, for the practicals, there is a presentation which I made, and it is there on the HELP YouTube channel. So for the practicals, I exhausted everything about the practicals. If I was also to talk about practicals today, I was just going to repeat what we discussed, what I talked in that presentation. You go on that HELP YouTube channel, and you'll find there that practical facilitation. We'll be able to help you. So someone is saying that those were the sample items in the UNEB. Now which sample? But those were the kinds of items in the UNEB sample, paper. If they were in the very first one, then the format must have slightly changed. The format, and that very item was not part of those sample. That's why I don't want to go into the details of the responses expected.
Teacher Arthur?
Yes?
I just wanted to say hello to the team here.
Yes, Mr. Duru, can go on, please.
Dear teachers and students, I'm excited to see the discussion going on and to listen in to what has been happening. I must say this is encouraging, and I like the questions the learners are putting across. Thank you, Teacher Arthur, for sparing this time to be able to support the candidates of 2024 before they go into their final exam. As the Ministry of Education, we definitely encourage this collaboration across schools, and would like to see this happening even more frequently. To the candidates, we want to wish you the very best. You are the first cohort on this new curriculum, and the success of the curriculum depends on your success. So we hope to see flying colors from your examinations, and we are looking forward to celebrating with you at the end of it all. We thank everyone. We thank the schools, the head teachers who have arranged this program. I can see quite a number of schools online, and I hope, Mr. Kaziba, at the end, you will take some pictures so that we see the schools that were here. I thank you, Mr. Kaziba, and your team for making this possible, and I want to wish you a good evening. I cannot stay for long. I have another meeting to go to, but thank you, and Teacher Arthur, please, thank you for the time you've given us. We wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dungo. Okay. Now there is an interesting question from Palisa. Is HIV a genetic disease? Now, HIV, in the other scenario that they read, they mentioned some symptoms that a child was presenting with. And those symptoms are typical of a hereditary disease, of a genetic disease. That scenario was capturing two aspects. We are capturing the HIV part of it, and it was also capturing a disease which is inherited. So it is not true that HIV is a genetic disease. Okay. Then let me now receive more few hands. Then we close. Patrick Kaima. Patrick Kaima. Patrick Kaima, are you there? Can ask your question. Patrick Kaima, we can't hear anything. Now, let me pick a lady from Ogenda Girls. So, Ogenda Girls, you can unmute. I don't know whom I should give the chance to ask. Ogenda Girls, what's the question? Hope it is that one coming. So you first unmute, then you ask your question. First unmute. Unmute, we can't hear you. Tap the microphone sign. Then you can now speak. We should now be able to hear, to listen to you. Ask your question, please. Sorry, I can't hear you. I can't hear. I can't hear. I don't know. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . You speak and we hear? We can't hear anything. Sorry, maybe there is a challenge with the device that, okay, let the teacher first work on it. Maybe you can try maybe to increase the volume. Maybe you can increase the volume of the device, that, or the microphone volume. For the practicals, we shall not talk about, so today we have mainly focused on the theory. But however, I said that I made a very interesting, if you go to the help YouTube channel, the practical facilitation. When you follow it, you'll be able to get most of responded to. King Keys High School, you can unmute.
Okay, thank you, sir. I had a question. For example, I have a scenario that says Ali planted his cassava garden alongside with the beans, and suddenly the garden was hit by the hailstorm. And part A for this question is asking about the plant structures that were affected. Is it just to list down the plant structures like you say leaves, or you even have to explain how those structures were affected?
Okay. If the task is saying identify, then it simply means you have to list those parts which are affected. If the task is saying explain, then you have to explain. So the demands of that task are that you just list, and that is what you do. Even if you explain, the explanations will be ignored because the demands of the task were just to list. Then let me now give the second last chance to a school which has not yet been given chance. Okay, let me see. Victory says, I think Victory says I gave you a chance, but you did not unmute yourself. Maybe if you can try again. Then let me also pick yes, Victor, you can ask your question.
Sir, how was it able that this urine that was brown turned to become clear?
Okay. Now, how was it possible that the urine that was brown eventually became clear? Now you still go in the scenario. You go back in the scenario and you see what are they talking about it. They are saying that after drinking plenty of water, the urine cleared after a few hours. So it means that it cleared after he had drunk, it cleared after he had drunk water. So that is the reason, after he had drunk water. And then the explanation, we talked about it, which I will not be able to repeat. Okay. So I think now we can call it a lesson. We can call it a day. I'm sorry that you have not been able to listen to everyone's questions. Time can never be enough. Time can never be enough. And this, given that you're starting your exams next week, of course, this is going to be our last discussion for senior 4, or our last budget facilitation for senior 4. Those ones who have missed, or those ones who came in late, please, all this information, all these recordings are shared on the YouTube channel called Help. So when you go to YouTube, just type in Help. They'll take you through all facilitations that you've been doing. Then you'll be able to listen to them, and you pick out what you can pick. Otherwise, I'm very sorry, and I have to wish you success in your exams. Thank you so much. Mr. Kaziba, over to you.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much, Teacher Arthur, for the session. We want to thank all the schools that have joined in. Thank you so much. We shall let you know of any program we may have in the remaining few days that we have towards our exams. But in case there is any program that we may have, we shall let you know through your teachers and through the different platforms. But we want to thank you so much, and we want to wish you success. I have seen that through the chat, many of you have been requesting for physics, for math, and other subjects. We are going to do all what we can within the few remaining days, and we shall be sending you the different details. But we want to let you know that please revise whatever the teachers have told you. Do not spot in the remaining days. Use the guidance the teachers are giving you to prepare yourselves for the exams. I want to assure that the exams are going to be doable, and just prepare very, very well. We shall support you until the last day, but we shall close all the different learning groups to allow safety of the different groups. So we shall be closing on Thursday, and we shall not be sending any communication on those different WhatsApp groups. But what we can do for the teachers, we shall post some work on the Padlets to help out on the children. But we want to request the schools that have attended, kindly take some photos of your children such that we can have them in our different reports that we are going to make. We want to thank Teacher Arthur once again and all the different teachers that have been on the call. Thank you so much for attending. Teachers, you can send those photos to the different WhatsApp group, or you can send them on my number that I'm dropping in the chat. And then they will help us when we are making a report to submit to the ministry. We want to thank you so much for attending, and let us wish you a good evening. We shall communicate in case of any other engagement. Thank you so much, and we want to wish success to all our children that are going to be sitting their exams. Thank you so much once again. Unless Teacher Arthur, you have anything you want to tell the candidates. Okay. Have a nice evening, everyone.